Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you're here. On today's episode, we welcome Dr. Deena Kara Shaffer. She is the remedy that I think the world needs so much right now when it comes to all things education and learning. In this interview, we get really candid about the fact that we are in systems that feel pretty broken, and a lot of us are having a hard time navigating school in terms of how we're supporting our littles or our bigs or even ourselves as learners. This is the woman who I wholeheartedly believe is the most trusted voice when it comes to learning to learn strategies and the reckoning that is needed in our school system. So enjoy the episode. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. And let me tell you, she will be back. She already said she would be, because we just scratched the surface on a topic that impacts us all in such big ways. So enjoy the episode with Dr. Deena. I'm very glad you're here. I'm thrilled to be introducing my guest today. Dr. Deena Kara Shaffer has joined us for a conversation all about things about learning, which I'm excited to share time with you today. So, Dr. Deena, thank you for being here today.
It is maximum heart-bursting joy. Thank you for your trust and the journey we're about to go on. I'm excited.
I am so excited to this. As we shared before we hit record, several colleagues and I had a chance to dive into your work when it was part of our professional development over a summer, and it's just so exciting to be able to meet the author, to meet the thinker, to meet the scholar, and have a conversation. And I am just so excited for this. And for folks who haven't had an opportunity yet to come across your work, could you give us just a wee little rundown about the good work that you're doing?
Do you know what I love? So when I listen to your podcast, I love how this is sometimes the hardest question. It's like, well, how do you put together a life and passion and hard work and fumbles and messiness into a sentence or two?
Yeah.
In its simplest form, I'm a learning strategist, which I am acutely aware is both like boring and obscure. So I
Mhm.
am a person who makes learning and teaching go better. I am a person who makes for less suffering for students across the ages, across the learning profiles, across the years and subject areas, experience more ease and more success, especially when learning isn't going very well. So, whether it's like a grade 5 student or a middle schooler or a high schooler or first year transition to post secondary or mature learner who's like, well, that career, I'm not feeling that anymore. I'm going to
Yeah.
train to be something else, but I don't really remember how to do school. So,
Mm.
wherever a human is on their learning journey, I make it more efficient and more fun and, to be honest, more resilient.
Yeah. So, Dr. Deena, I can share with you when I first came across your book, my first feeling was actually like a wee bit of sorrow that this didn't exist 30 years before. And I say that in a very respectful, loving way, because my experience in terms of how school and I didn't get along, that voice and those insights that you offer would have radically changed my experience as a learner, and I know countless others. So first and foremost, I appreciate that, everything happens in due time, and this is when the season of your work is becoming more familiar with people across the country, and also just that recognition that there's a reckoning that needs to happen in terms of how we think about learning and learning to learn skills and the learners themselves. And I think you are the most trusted voice in this reckoning when it comes to changing how we approach learning. So, first and foremost, thank you for the
Mm.
body of work that you have dedicated yourself to creating. And can you just start us off with, is it possible? How is it even possible to make learning feel good?
Oh, I love that, and I deeply appreciate the generosity that leads to that question. So thank you for
Yeah.
seeing the thing that I'm trying truly with my whole heart and guts to do over here. So can learning feel good? Yes.
Mhm.
I just am not a big fan of waiting for policy and like curriculum ideas to be overhauled and changed. I'm
Mhm.
not patient by nature. It's like probably to a fault, and it takes too long for structural changes, which are necessary.
Yes.
I'm just not in charge of any of those. So,
Yes.
what I get to do with my life is fill each learner's pockets
Mhm.
full of workarounds and creative MacGyvering of
Yeah.
what they could do when they are very, very overwhelmed about
Yeah.
an assignment coming up, when they realize, wait a minute, I have been writing my notes over and over and over
Mhm.
again, and I'm getting languishing marks
Yeah.
when it comes to writing a test or exam. I am exhausted. I am depleted. I am burnt out. I mean, a
Yeah.
15-year-old being burnt out, we all want something different and better than that.
Absolutely.
So learning can feel better. And it's not that it's outside of the learner. It's actually all with
Mhm.
inside them. It's all their inner wisdom, but with guidance and with
Yes.
saying, wait a minute, there is actually a remarkable bodies of research kind of tucked away. There's learning science and cognitive
Mhm.
psychology. It just hasn't infused teacher education programs. Profs don't learn it.
Yeah.
Parents don't learn it. And so there are these loops, usually inefficient, usually depleting. And so when we learn how to learn, and there is no one way,
Mhm.
so when a student kind of puts together their own personalized toolbox of things that
Yeah.
make sense for them, they are less alone in their learning. They are less worried. They're clear. And ultimately, the A, the great marks, the excellent performance, it's a natural byproduct. Like that's the
Yes.
magic, that's the
Yeah.
alchemy. So feel good learning is entirely possible, and I see it every single day in my classes, in my courses, in my one-on-ones.
Mhm.
It is around holistic learning strategies, which is the one thing we have never tried in education.
Which is just amazing to hear, and I already just hope people are feeling this, like, beautiful exhale of just being like, what you feel as a parent, as a supporter, or even as an educator. I hope you're feeling this, like, exhale where it's like, finally somebody is talking about the thing that we need to be talking about. Finally, someone is saying out here at such a, as an adjunct faculty member, you're coming forward and saying like, yes, the system, it serves many. We know that.
Mhm.
However, it also underserves several. And what we're seeing is that there's a different approach that we can explore that is accessible to find a different way to have a relationship with our learning and the content. And I also just hold space to recognize you're working within a very rigid system, but you're being very, very flexible and adaptive and even nimble about
Mhm.
recognizing the barriers, recognizing, again, those pieces that make learning not for everybody. And what you're doing is you're enabling and really emboldening people to take learning in their own hands, so to speak, and find a way that works for them, and that there's not only one right way to do this. There's so many
Yeah.
different ways that we can approach this.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly. And the key for me is all of it. All of it. Every strategy, every approach, every technique is born from students. This
Yes.
isn't abstract. This isn't like highly academic only
Yes.
for some. This is best practice for all. It is fundamentally neuro inclusive. So I
I love
teach
that.
250 students every semester. In my face are
Mhm.
papers that are entirely AI generated,
Yes.
students who are telling me, I am panicked about my workload.
Yeah.
What do I do? I've missed 3 classes in a row. I don't understand what is even
Lost.
happening with content.
Mm. Yeah.
And so, what they need to know is that there are strategies for that. There are
Yes.
strategies for that that aren't about speed reading, that aren't about
Mhm.
skimming, that aren't around cutting corners, that are
Yeah.
definitely not around using AI as a shortcut, using
Yes.
AI ethically to
Yes.
enhance our learning, to make it productive in a non-toxic way.
Yeah.
But there are ways if only students were shown how. That's the
I love
exciting part
this.
for me.
I absolutely love this. Okay, so again, I'm trying to thinking of our audience, wanting to give big general kind of key ideas. And there's still this part of me that's like, oh my gosh, Dr. Dean, like I hated school as a learner and it hated me back. And we had such a fractured relationship. And again, I'm trying to like zoom out so that way we
Mhm.
can have a very general conversation. Yet there is just this reckoning, this acknowledgement that like school for some of us, it's really hard. And
Mhm.
then we're in these roles, perhaps as parents and supporters, where we're watching the same institution like spit out our own kids.
Mhm.
And so again, I'm just noticing even in having this conversation, I have some big feels about school. And as someone who also is in the academy, just again, feeling this relief knowing that you are here providing some clarity. So thank you for that. And also thank you for letting me presence the fact that I'm like, wow, this is getting me fired up about how we choose to not only support our students, but also how we're supporting our pre-service educators. And there's just so many different components to this. So wow. Okay. So thank you for bearing with that. One of the things that I was very curious about, and somebody asked me when I shared that I was going to have a chance to connect with you today. They said, and they asked me, they said, Robin, why do we still use tests and assessments in these high stakes environments, like a
Mm.
test taking scenario, whether it be in middle school, at the high school, even in the post secondary level? Why do we still use these assessments? And if you happen to have a student or someone that you care about who isn't that test taker, is it even possible for them to be successful if they're not test takers when we have such a assessment based in that type of way in our systems?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get in there. This is like
Oh,
my
I'm
favorite
excited.
question. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that tests are efficient for teachers. Like we have to be
Sure.
honest about why. Like,
Yeah.
so if a teacher has 25 students or 30 or 50 or 60 or 200, tests are efficient. That's
Yeah.
not all of why they happen. And it doesn't, that's, I'm not putting any kind of qualifier, like whether that's
Yeah.
good or bad, but we have to be honest about why we use
Yeah.
them. They're very efficient.
Yes.
They're also right now, given you could give a take home anything, take home lab, take
Mhm.
home assignment, take home problem set, and there is a very high likelihood that AI
Yes.
is going to be used. So now they're not just efficient, they're a check around accountability and integrity.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we can't just discount that. And we
Yes.
can't discount that when we know that teacher burnout is on the rise. Like teachers
Mhm.
are demanded a lot of right now across the years, grades and years.
Yes.
So we're worried about their burnout too. And so if we're thinking about creative, personalized assessments, we just
Mhm.
have to be mindful like, but who's doing that labor?
Yes.
Okay. So the thing that I actually feel is very important about tests, and let's use that broadly because it could
Yes.
be a nursing practical exam,
Yeah.
it could be a multiple choice,
Yeah.
it could be an oral exam in a
Mhm.
language. So they come in a lot of different forms. So we could say let's broaden out. It's a timed assessment. So
Yes.
you're maybe writing it in person, maybe still online. It has a time. There's a container. Why is that useful? Because almost all of those humans who take a test are gonna be in an interview one day.
Yes.
And that interview is gonna require that they have enough access
Yes.
to their knowledge, to their insights, and the situation is gonna be high pressure or high
Mm.
stakes. They're gonna want something. They're in that interview for an internship or a
Yeah.
job, and they're gonna really, really want it. And we have to teach learners how to be able to sit with,
Mhm.
stress
Yeah.
and not crumple,
Absolutely.
how to
Mhm.
be able to feel their feet
Mhm.
and feel their breath and have most of their words and ideas with them. It's never going to
Yeah.
be all of them.
Mhm.
So, can you rise? Can you articulate? Can you use your voice and share your views when we've turned the dial up a little bit on
Yes.
stress? So that's not
Mm.
fundamentally bad. That's actually a very useful skill. Think
Yeah.
of all the times, every keynote that you have done, there's some amplified stress, which works to your advantage, keeps you sharp, keeps you focused. But if you
Yes.
went too far on that curve, now we crumple.
Yep.
We don't want that. So the challenges or the opportunity is that students aren't preparing for tests very well. And
Mhm.
it's not their fault. No one showed them how. This
Yeah.
kills me. No one shows them how. What
Yeah.
did the head of AI Google or Google's AI just come out with? This generation's most needed skill is learning how to learn.
Mhm.
And it is never taught. So, what happens for a teacher or prof or instructor? Here's an exam date, here's a quiz date, but
Mhm.
they don't explain how to get from here to there well,
Yeah.
efficiently, rested.
Mhm.
So, what do 99% of all students do? They
Mm.
rewrite their notes. They
Yeah.
beautify them. They're glorious. Oh, look at my study notes. 0% of that is studying. That isn't how memory
Yeah.
works.
Yes.
None of those minutes are
Mhm.
helping that information or their insights, that the ability to apply in new
Yeah.
situations on a test, a new question they've never seen.
Yeah.
None of that is happening.
Yeah. Dr. Nia, I just hold space there. I'm so fascinated by this because we know this to be true. Like everything you're saying, absolutely, we know this to be absolutely true. And I can share with you, as again, as a parent, my oh, here's some puppies for some little action for you. As a parent, I remember coaching Mike. So I have two in university. I remember coaching Hunter with one of his like more difficult courses. I asked him, I said, please make an appointment. I said, dude, you might want to consider make appointment with the prof and ask the professor, what is your recommended modality of studying based on the format of the test, right? Just ask the prof because I said the prof will be able to let you know, is this a site recognition test? Is this an application test? Like they'll give you some insights. And I remember he came home feeling we really hyped him up to like be like, yes, go do this, go do this. And then he went there and said, what modality would you recommend to study based on how the test is structured? And unfortunately, in his particular scenario, the faculty said you have to figure that out. That's part of you have to figure this out. And a part of me is so curious if you've seen in the work that you're doing that not this gatekeeping, but there is part of this idea that is there a reason we aren't teaching the learning to learn skills? Is there a reason perhaps we're not having more instruction? And again, what I've heard from persons in instructional designs share is, again, the instructional designer and all of us is like, no, 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 we want to let them know the structure. We want to set them up for success. And I think there's also holding space that, sometimes I think there's a misunderstanding that, a student being able to figure those parts out is part of the testing process.
Mm.
And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good, juicy question. On the one hand, I am all for students wrestling and
Yeah.
sitting with frustration because the risk to make a mistake is always richer and
Yes.
serves the learner better than not trying or staying in
Yeah.
stasis or like, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
We know many learners like that, right? And it's
Mhm.
scary because it feels like, but I have no idea.
Mhm.
I don't really know if I feel that way with learning strategies because
Got
it
it.
implicates equity, it implicates
Mhm.
student mental health. Like I
Yeah.
am so justice oriented and making sure
Yes.
that all learners feel like there is a place for them, that their
Mhm.
presence and being matters and is a gift in that classroom. What I really wish could happen is that professors and instructors and pre-service teachers learn the skills of learning strategies. And I
Mhm.
think that in that situation, I wonder if that prof didn't even have a clue what your son even meant. Like
Yeah.
modality of what?
Yeah.
Just study how you always study. Like what am
Yeah.
I can't tell you what's on the test. And that's
Yeah.
actually not what your son was asking at all. It was,
Exactly.
I'm present to the material. I'm going to be
Yeah.
asked to perform it in some way. How do I go about doing that?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's gatekeeping. I think it's not knowing because
Fair.
it's a
Yeah.
different skill than the content expertise, the research of that professor.
Yeah.
But the opportunity would have been when that prof was first invited to that institution.
Mhm.
Let's run a course on learning strategies. Because
Mhm.
the ironic part is their students will perform better, their students will
Yes.
plagiarize less, will
Mhm.
engage more in class, they will be less burnt out themselves as
Yes.
educators. Like that's the
Absolutely.
wild thing here. Learning strategies. I pitched this to South by Southwest, One of these days they're going to let me in at the education conference. That it is my genuine belief that learning strategies are what are called it's multi-solving. It solves
Yes.
more than one problem at a
Yeah.
time. Student retention, student mental health, teacher
Mhm.
burnout, parent burnout,
Absolutely.
like it
Yeah.
f- so we're just
Yeah.
there ready for everyone, you know? And I'm
Yes.
just like standing on the rooftops going, "It's
Yeah.
time.
It's
We're all
time.
ready." That
Yeah.
word you used, relief,
Yes.
students can feel a sense of relief when they
Yeah.
learn how to take notes, how to manage their time. And Robin, the wildest thing for me is if you asked any parent right now,
Mhm.
any professional, how are you doing? What are they likely to say? I am stressed. I
Exhausted.
am
Yeah, they're exhausted
exhausted.
with all of it. Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
so they know the relationship with time is
Mhm.
a challenging one.
Yes.
But time management is task management, is project management, is life management. These are life skills. These are
Yes.
life skills. We had a learner that we just welcomed to our team. And of course, the learners never quite tell their parents everything. That's why we're
Yes.
here. So,
Yes.
what was happening for this learner? She was struggling to get out of bed.
Mhm.
She was missing class. And ooh, if you miss class, ChatGPT looks real good. When you have an
Absolutely.
assignment, your back's up against the wall. What do I do? And so, what did we start with? We need to fix your sleep.
Yes.
And in order to fix your sleep, you need pockets of rest because nobody can go from fully velocitized to deeply
Yes.
sleeping.
Yes.
And to do that then means that you're attending. And when you're
Mhm.
attending class, she's a grade 10 student, you have a higher chance of comprehending and paying attention what's in happening in the
100%.
lesson. And when you
Yeah.
have that, you are less likely to be easily swayed by
Yes.
a system, algorithmic system doing the work for you. This is
Yeah.
the work of holistic learning strategies.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. Okay, Dr. I'm so mindful of our time. And again, I could talk to you for days. So I'm doing my best to try and like put some guardrails on this. So if I am a parent or a supporter or an educator listening, and I know that there's so many different tools and strategies under the sun, are there a few kind of your favorite go-to strategies that we could talk about in a really like tangible way?
Yes.
So that way, people can, I would love for them to bring some of this into their practices. So, and again, I'm mindful I'm putting on the spot and it doesn't have to be a rank order of, okay,
Yeah.
these are the top 10.
Yeah.
And I'm just, giving, just really mindful about how people can put this into use. And if it's okay, I'll give you a moment to kind of think that through. Or maybe you have
No,
them on
I've
the
got
top of
him.
your
I'm
mind.
ready. I'm
Okay,
ready.
perfect. Because I was going to say, I have two that I've used with my family and with my students that are my go-to starts.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear. What you would say if we're just creating a wee bit of a charcuterie board for people with different ideas, different ages and stages. This is some good, solid practices that will get you on the right track.
And I have 3 hours to answer this question, right?
Oh,
Okay,
yes, you
let's go.
do. At
Of course.
least, yeah, at least a
Because
mini half course.
I'm a strategist, so, like, this is
Yes,
where I live. So, number
yes.
1, I would use Magic To Do. It
Okay.
is a lovely free I mean, everything I suggest is free. So,
Yes.
it's a lovely resource. It helps you generate the to-do list from an
Yeah.
assignment because what
Mhm.
happens is a student will get an assignment of write an essay, compare
Yes.
contrast assignment, a book report, a lab report. But the challenge, it can be so immobilizing to
Yes.
start if you don't know the component parts. And if you write down write essay in your agenda, well, like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? I
Exactly.
okay, so that's number 1. That's very, very clear because it itemizes, it
Mhm.
subtasks it for you
I
with
love
a
this.
lot of possibility for clarification. Next is so that's around to-do setting. Next
Mhm.
is what do we do with to-dos? If we have 3 things due at the same time, how do we know which to begin? Usually people's favorite prioritization tool is the urgent and important matrix. So you can
Okay.
rank order
Yeah.
what is due the soonest and what is worth the most marks. And I
Yeah.
really understand it, and it's not that there's 0 value.
Mhm.
It's just that if we only live in high importance, high urgency, then we're in crisis mode all the time. This is
All the
very
time.
distressing to me,
I'm
right?
already excited that
Yeah.
this is out in the
So
world.
if we're going to
Yeah.
use that, we have to begin with high importance, low urgency, meaning the
Exactly.
midterm that is in 3 weeks, not tomorrow. So if you have homework, you start with studying 25 minutes even for a test that is 3 weeks away. So the awaken learning method is 3-2-1. 3 weeks before an exam, you start studying. 2 weeks before a test, 1 week before a quiz. Not every day, not for 3 hours at a time, because that hits the very best in learning science, which is there are
Yes.
only 2 things that count in studying. And
Mhm.
it's not rewriting your notes and it is not rereading a slide deck. Okay. So it's practice questions and it's practicing them over time. It's the only thing
Yes,
you need to do. We can make it all fancy,
absolutely.
right? There's a lot of fun things that
Yeah,
we can put in there, but those are
yeah.
your two things.
Yeah, and if I can interject there just for a moment, I love, so for example, when Ava, she literally wrote a kinesiology exam for second year university this morning, and I know we kinda like AI and ChatGPT, it gets a pretty bad rep, deservingly a bad
Mhm.
rep,
Yeah,
and I remember walking by her study space, and she was basically she uploaded her notes into ChatGPT and said, "Ask me questions,"
that's it.
and so she was like nailing these questions, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Sister, you are literally using this technology for good."
Yeah,
I love that it is asking you questions. And again, she was even able to like basically the content she gave ChatGPT is this is going to be this amount short answer, this amount true and false, this amount multiple choice. And so basically from the notes that she uploaded, it was giving her these questions into all these
that's it.
different modalities. And again, I just love that idea, what you just reiterated. We see in the research, it's practice questions over
Mhm.
time. Like, I
You've got
love
it.
this. Yes,
You've got it. So
it's
I've just given
amazing.
2 keynotes this past week on studying with AI
Yeah,
and run workshops all the time. If you put into Perplexity, can you assess my study skills? This is
yeah.
how I recently studied. This is my level of focus. This is how
Mm,
long I studied. These are the kind of materials. Just give me a quick pre-assessment of how I'm doing.
yes,
Great. You'll get impartial, non-parental, because we know how that goes if a parent
yes.
says anything. You'll get an assessment of how it's going. If you
Mhm.
use ChatGPT, look at the little plus sign and go down to study and learn. That can be a
Yes.
personalized coach. Put in
Yeah.
your prof or your teacher's slide deck and
Yep.
say, coach me through, am I making the connections between this
Yes.
lesson and this lesson? Best, best, best of all AI
Yeah.
tool, Notebook LM. This
Yeah.
is
I love this.
unparalleled. It is
Yeah.
absolutely exquisite. It doesn't pull from like the garbage Google universe.
Yes.
Instead, what it does is you set the container, put in the PDFs, put in the websites, put in all the
Yep.
material from your course. It will
Yes.
make a podcast for you. So now I'm thinking
Yes.
about like radical inclusion for all learners.
Yep.
Here's the best part. I work with many students who have autism or ADHD. They
Mm,
love to ask a lot of questions, get
that's
clarification,
right.
get grounded. You can interrupt that podcast with no shame or self consciousness. Ask
That's
as
right.
many times for as much clarification. Now, new feature, it will provide you like a Canvas style presentation deck running you through with voices that sound like they're real.
Yes.
Here's how we move through the material of your course.
Yes.
Extraordinary. And of course, with all of these platforms, ask for a practice test, ask for practice questions.
Yes.
That is the most
Yeah.
ethical, efficient way to prepare for any timed assessment.
Yeah. I literally just wanna, like, put this in a package and send it into the hearts of families and supporters right now when
Mhm.
their teenager, their younger student, their
Yeah.
university, college trade
Yeah.
student is, like, freaking out. It's just like, "Oh my gosh, the tools are there." When we're the driver of the tool, like you just described, like, it's a game changer. And one of the things, just to again, just to jump in for content setting, again, Hunter, third year university, one of his instructors basically said, "This is how you are able to use my slide decks to be able to do this." He took the option of turning it
Perfect.
into a podcast, and he's got a 4-hour drive home, and when he comes home for the weekend. And so, like, part of his studying was just this kind
That's
of
it.
exposure, right? So in that particular case, it was just exposure. And then when he got to his destination, asked for it to ask him a few questions, and his confidence compared to if he sat alone in his dorm just repeating it or making cue cards, right? Like, it's again, it turns into an arts and crafts project, and which is also fun. Like, you know what, if that's your thing that you have fun with, go for it. And my invitation is to augment it with these very, very sound tools that we know are so helpful.
That's right, because what we ultimately want is for learners of all ages to get more minutes back, to
Exactly.
rest, to connect in their community and experience belonging. We want more time
Yeah.
with their families. We want time for them to be creative and pursue their passions. We want for them to be moving their bodies, being outside in nature. Where are those minutes going
Yes.
to come from? Because all of those are the things that are triaged and crossed off the list first
Yeah.
when you've got a lot of work to do. But they're actually the
Absolutely.
things that make work sustainable. So for me, I think of learning strategies, particularly the holistic learning strategy stance that I take. They
Yes.
make learning and work more startable, so we're not
Yeah.
so overwhelmed and immobilized. They make work more doable, so really clear about how to sequence and move through the work, and more sustainable, because how
Yeah.
many learners do we know, whether they're in grade 6 or grade 11,
Yeah.
they or my goodness, fourth year university, grad
Yeah.
school, write the big exam, and they get sick the next day,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
So we understand that physiologically. It does not have to be that way. It
Yeah.
just doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, you're
Imagine
absolutely
writing a
right.
more resourced, more
Mhm.
confident test. I say to all my students, I want you to swagger into your next exam. Everyone else can be
Yeah.
in pajamas, like flipping through their notes.
Yeah.
You walk in
Yeah.
with like,
You're
I
locked in, you're
actually
feeling
do
good.
have this.
Yeah.
Enough with people saying you got this, you got like,
Yeah.
I do got it because I
Yeah.
had strategies to support the architecture of my learning.
Yeah, I love this. I could share with you anecdotally when I was teaching in psychology, and I, again, for decade, I was teaching in the psych department. I remember my students were so, it was a statistics course. They particularly, it was a tricky one for a lot of us because we've all internalized that belief. Like, I'm not a math person, right? I'm like, right. The same as like, nobody says like, oh, I'm not a reader, or I'm not a reader, or I'm not a
Yeah.
geography person, or I'm not
Yeah.
a history person, but we
Yeah.
we use I'm not a math person in our nomenclature. And I remember saying to my students, I'm like, dudes, we have to interrupt this idea that you are not math people. Like, you do math every single day. Like, you do math in the grocery store. You do the math when you look how much battery life is in your cell phone. You do math
Mhm.
when you know how tall you are, what size clothing you wear. Like, you are exposed to math in every shape and form. This is just one particular domain of math. And I remember asking my students, like, how do we create this new container for this? Because I am so tired of people coming in, as you described, burned out, exhausted, under resourced, in their pajamas. Like, hey, if that's cool, if you be comfy, but like, they were coming in, like they were dragging themselves into
Mhm.
this assessment. And they're just like, well, exams are just meant to be painful. And I remember having this moment being like, no, no, we're changing this. We're changing this narrative. And I remember I wanted them to laugh. And as because somebody who uses a form of resiliency is humor, I remember wanting my students to laugh. And I still have students who tell me about this day, where on the top of their exam, and again, they were in this big auditorium. There was like 500 people writing, but I only had like 100 of them. So there were other 400 students in these other tests, Dr. Deena. And I remember all of a sudden when my students, I knew that where they got to at the beginning of their test, because they all started to like chuckle in a very serious exam state, where I had all these like little jokes put in there. And there was this one where there was this little feisty little Hellcat, and it's like, and he's like ripping up as an exam. He's like, this isn't an exam. This is a celebration of what I know. And just totally kind of pretensing it with my students, where it's like, this is a chance for you to show me how much of the content you retained, how much of the content you could work with it. And then I shared with them, if there is clear gaps across the group where clearly folks weren't getting this, I said, that's on me as an
Mhm.
instructor. So I'm like, we're in this together.
Mhm.
And we built an understanding that if there were junk questions, I will take ownership of that, and we
Mhm.
will navigate that as a collective. And again, I love this idea about giving them the confidence to feel well resourced, and also giving them just these kind of little micro moments to
Mhm.
take some of the pressure
Totally.
off, because
Totally.
not one assessment is going to make or break your career.
Mhm.
Even if it feels really high stakes, I don't believe that one assessment is going to, disallow your future.
That's
Um,
right.
and keeping things in perspective, which you do such a beautiful job doing.
Well, what's so wonderful, it's delicious. Like, I do a sister thing with my students, what would, the healthiest exam period look like for you?
Yes.
And so could you have the most well-rested, most connected, where you do not so much movement, but not no movement? What would
Yeah.
like moderate and paced and kind and social in nourishing ways? What would a nourishing exam season be? And it sounds out there, but it isn't. I mean,
It's not.
I'm going through this with a third year aerospace engineering student, and it's
Yeah.
working. Like he's
Yeah.
had terrible, depleting hours on end with not eating at the library.
Mm.
It's no longer like that.
Yes.
And, not surprising, he's doing better.
Yeah.
And so the exam that doesn't go well for folks, and I teach this a lot around slow feedback, it's just information, right?
Mhm.
We so deeply connect the identity piece and the worth piece to that mark, that grade. And I will not be a person who dismisses how that lands for a person. I
Yeah,
know what that feels like. I know what it's like to give that mark. I know what it's like to
yeah,
counsel and coach a student through that feedback. But we cannot push it away. We
yes.
cannot over identify. The space in between is,
Mhm,
what does this let you know about your presentness in class?
mhm.
What does this let you know about how you take notes? There are excellent note taking systems. What
That's
does
right.
this tell you about your social media use?
Mhm.
Right now, 100% of my students will say it's got me in its grips. These
Yes.
attention thieves, these digital devices that are on purpose trying to like rob me of my
Yes.
sleeping, of my self esteem. I'm hooked. As we
Yes.
say, yeah, I mean, my goodness, study just out a week and a half ago about 1 week detox. What do we
Mhm.
notice, right? Anxiety, depression, insomnia down. That's
Boom.
one
Yeah.
week.
1
So,
week. Oh, I know.
so the a tough mark, a tough comment, a failed course isn't the end of the world, but it's
Mhm.
also not nothing insofar as it is rich with information for a student
Yeah.
if they have the kind of inner resourcing and community and ground underneath their feet to really look carefully. That's the possibility when we feel like we've really made a mistake or had a tough term or semester or assignment.
I absolutely love this, and I just even love the language in which you described what it would feel like to have this nourishing assessment period or
Mhm,
exam period, and how it
mhm.
just radically changes how we even think about what it looks like versus that kind of white knuckle struggle, under-resourced, under-rested,
No
underfed.
more
That's
dread.
true.
No more
Yeah.
dread. Could we
No more
imagine?
dread.
No more dread around exam
Yeah.
period. Imagine if every exam period your ritual was potluck with friends.
I love that. Yeah.
Body work. I'm going
Yeah.
to really make sure that I move my body every day. And
Yes.
none of it is subtractive. None of
Yes.
it is subtractive to time or efficiency or productivity. It
Yeah.
enhances performance.
I absolutely love all this. Okay, Dr. Nina, question. What are a few just quick rapid fire kind of things that you would love parents and supporters and educators to stop doing or stop asking our students? Some rapid fire, just top of mind. What are some things I can start first? I would love for families, especially with younger kids, to stop paying for A's. Like, do not put money on A's and do not put monies on goal and sport. That would be my like. If we could have this little wish, I would say to all parents and supporters, do not buy grades with
That's
your
so
kid.
huge, actually.
Yeah,
And like
that's my
as
big
an
one.
aside, what we know is that by the time a student, you can get all the A's you want on the journey to post-secondary, you get into post-secondary where you can't do that.
Yeah, you're
Um,
cooked.
the students who have those inflated grades,
Yeah.
it's like more than 50% have insufficient learning skills.
Oh,
Right? Like
yes.
we
Preach. Yes.
it's laid bare. We already
Yeah.
know it's already been studied.
Yes.
And that student is going to have to perform in real life. Not everything is take home. So what are they going to do when they have to use their voice, when they have to raise their hand, when they're called upon, when they have to do a like live demonstration of skill and
Yes.
knowledge? We want to set that up, including the
Absolutely.
resilience piece of like what happens if I mumble, what happens if I lose
Mhm.
my train of thought.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So the things that I wish. I do not believe that we have to hit the ground running from the moment we come home and step into the door after a long day of
Mhm.
school. I think there needs to be like, we need to release the pressure valve a
Yeah.
little bit through reconnection, through not just like, what did you do today? How was your day?
Yes.
Like, what are the
Yep.
questions that actually prompt real
Mhm.
conversation and connection?
I
I would
love that.
stop in I would be very careful about reactions to grades if they
Mhm.
interfere with relationship. It's always connection and relationship over the
Yeah.
artifact of a grade. I would not be afraid to get in there. I would not be afraid to say like, can I help you
Yes.
understand this assignment better? We have this thing of like, no, it just happens in the classroom. But if those teachers don't know learning strategies,
Yes.
somebody's got to help that kid, not with the content,
Yeah.
but with, oh, do you know, if you ask yourself a couple of questions, let me show you this AI tool.
Yeah.
I got to share with you what I heard from another parent, like make it the
Yes.
friendliest invitation, not the
Yes.
I know it all. I
Yeah.
would stop saying from a parent to a learner, you know what worked for me?
Yeah.
And I would never say to a learner, ever, just do it.
Mhm.
That now we've got fear and shame.
Yes.
No learner has ever benefited from just do it. But what
I
we
love
can
that.
say is, here are 5 different ways how to do it.
I love that. So that's what we're going to stop. Those are our wishes that we will stop. And if there was just 1 or 2 wishes of what we would start doing, what would you love us as parents,
Mm.
supporters, and educators? What would you love us to start doing? I know you've shared some great tools, absolutely, and we'll put all of this in the show
Mm.
notes. But if there's a few grab and goes, let's start this, what would you love to see?
Yeah. So in response to all of the urgency and crisis language and tools out there that I'm not a big fan of, I created my own called the priority wheel, and that was really my
Mhm.
best attempt at true school life, work life balance. So
Yes.
what I would love for students to know and take permission with is it's okay if they have big ambitions
Mhm.
and to insert 20 or 30 minutes of that creative drive, that entrepreneurial drive, the music making, the sport playing, along
Mhm.
with their academics. It doesn't actually take away, it makes for a fuller life.
I love
Um,
that.
I would love for students to disidentify with learning styles that are not real. There's no such
Yeah.
thing as a kinesthetic learner. Like
Oh,
right?
preach.
We got to
Yes.
bust that myth. So
Yeah.
be the fullness and the full
Yes.
complexity of who you are.
Yeah.
Please don't see yourself as a problem, whether you have one diagnosis, none, many, suspected. You are not a problem to be solved. There is not one way to do university. We just got to find yours. And yours
Yes.
isn't going to be singular or linear. It's going to be like a wonderful hodgepodge
Yeah.
toolbox that is co created. And I would just say this, if you're really tempted to think that SMART goals are the answer, stop. Like, SMART goals
Yeah.
are born out of like middle management performance,
Yeah. Occupation. I
right?
love this.
But a better
Preach.
one is WOOP. And so
Whoop.
WOOP is where you have a wish, and students, you're allowed to have big, juicy, dreamy, wild,
Big, big
ambitious
words.
dream. Like you don't have to think small. You can take up
Yeah.
your full wingspan.
Yeah.
The O is for outcome.
Mhm.
Live it, envision it fully. What does it mean to you if you get that A, if you get that
Yeah.
scholarship? Like why? Why is that important to you in the
Mhm.
fullness of the detail? But here's where it gets interesting. The second O in WOOP as an alternative, WOOP instead of SMART goals,
Yeah.
is around obstacle.
Obstacle. Yeah.
Pre-think of the internal, like procrastination,
Yeah.
external, workspace, and digital distractions. What
Yeah.
are the obstacles that might get in your way of the thing that you say that you want, of moving in the direction of what you want? And P is planning for it.
Yeah.
If that obstacle comes for you, then what? So it
Yes.
gets us to know about ourselves. It's structured reflection. And
Yeah.
so I want learners to set goals, but I don't want them to do with stupid systems that
Yeah.
don't work, you know?
100%. Oh my goodness. Well, Dr. Deena, I feel so encouraged that you exist, that you are doing this
Blessings.
body of work, that you are inspiring countless people. I would love to be able to keep the conversation going, have you back another time to take a deeper dive
Yeah.
into some of these strategies because they're so applicable, not just to our learners and our students, to us as
Yeah.
grown-ups learning new material, as you described at the top, imagining career changes. Like there are just so many applications that I would love to be able to continue this conversation. Thank you very, very much for joining me today. And as I said, I hold space that I wish you had been around 30 years ago, but I am so grateful you are here just in time when I think our school needs it most. So thank you so much for the work you're doing, and I'm excited to have you back.
With my whole heart, thank you. Thank you for allowing space for people's love, their exuberance, what they devote their whole lives to. So thank you for including me in your incredible community.
Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.